Hello everybody, today I will be discussing a very recent yet for the most part unmentioned Silicon Valley startup which engaged in fraudulent activities very similar to Theranos and whose founders have been charged with multiple offenses against their investors and the public, and they are both on the run at this time. Today we will take a deep and messy dive into uBiome and what went wrong, so stay tuned. Hello everybody, welcome back to The Contrarian. For those of you who are new here, my name is Logan. I really like to talk about investing in the markets and most of all going against the crowd. So yeah, if you like these kinds of topics, just consider subscribing, but this is also a very unique video. I don't typically talk about just companies that have gone up in flames, but I think this is an interesting example, not only since it's basically an exact repeat of Theranos, but also just it really does show, in my opinion, just how insane a lot of the investors out there currently are. The crowd of investors certainly is. So to get started, this whole situation is just very hilarious for those who have not been directly involved, especially since a couple of years ago, James Corden made a parody on Theranos, and in this parody, James acted as the sociopathic Elizabeth Holmes, but instead of a blood testing company, the fraudulent fictional company was a poop testing company called Theranos. And back then, everyone laughed at how ridiculous such a company was, and this was such a ridiculous example, it would never happen. But it turns out someone actually took James seriously and actually started a company, a uBiome, which is what I'm talking about, which tried to do, essentially with your number two, what Theranos tried to do with your blood. And long story short, the same result as what occurred with Theranos happened. That technology didn't exist, investors were misled by the founders of the company, the public was misled into taking tests which didn't offer any real data that was reliable for doctors, and the company actually engaged in outright fraudulent activity against insurance companies. So unlike Theranos, the co-founders of uBiome have been charged relatively quickly with multiple offenses, and apparently these co-founders, Jessica Richman and Zachary Ape, however that's pronounced, are currently on the run. So this is just a very hilarious couple of articles I found. Following several high-profile hiccups a few years ago that included an FBI raid and ultimately led to a bankruptcy filing, the uBiome saw its founders run into more trouble Thursday: securities fraud. And apparently this woman, Jessica Richman, actually lied about her age as well to make it into Forbes's 40 under 40. She was actually 45 when she lied about her age. She said she was 39 or something. So kind of a repeat of Elizabeth Holmes in that apparently she doesn't have any issue with lying to authorities about her different details. Yeah, founded way back in 2012, uBiome burst onto the scene with a pledge to crowdsource the sequencing and mapping of the human microbiome, the bacterial ecosystem inside the gut, that some scientists say has a wide-ranging impact on one's health. The company pitched itself as the next 23andMe offering to analyze stool samples and return health-related advice. So I think this is an interesting point that they bring up, just that a lot of the time I feel like these frauds, whether it's Theranos or uBiome or others, they kind of try to piggyback off of other success that's worked in the past, whether it's with 23andMe, with actually, sequencing your genetic genome, whereas this is trying to use your poo to, find whatever kind of data they were trying to get. So, yeah, it's kind of interesting to see how with Theranos they were trying to piggyback on a lot of the success of different people in the past. Obviously, Elizabeth Holmes was trying to portray herself as the next Steve Jobs, and that didn't really work out that well. But the house of cards began to crumble when some researchers sounded alarms that the science behind the company didn't all add up. They said that, like when 23andMe first started, there simply hadn't been enough research in the microbiome to offer sweeping health advice based on a stool sample. 23andMe, after facing its own criticism, eventually gained FDA approval for several of its services. And then it was just a long and slow, snowballing effect from there for uBiome, and eventually its founders are on the run right now, trying to avoid being charged with all of these offenses that they've committed. So anyway, this video is more of a lighthearted and funny way of getting around to just how insane so many startup companies are out there right now, and how low the bar is set right now. I mean, think of this, like, some awful idea like this that a parody was actually made about actually ended up getting $100 million of venture capital money. That should show you kind of how insane the market is right now, or at least part of the market. um, and apparently, these venture capitalist investors were just piling millions of dollars into this poop testing company, and they didn't even check that the technology existed. They didn't even go ask any qualified doctor if this kind of thing could work. So anyway, you'll probably hear more about this dirty scandal surrounding uBiome in the coming months, but it's this kind of stuff that just really makes you wonder how much more crazy it can get in a constipated bull market like the one we are in right now. And at some point, all this crowd-driven craziness is going to come to an end, kind of like how it has with uBiome. But for now, it's good to have a laugh once in a while during the craziness. So if you guys like this video, just consider subscribing to this channel. If you didn't like it, let me know why down in the comments, and I hope to see you again.